Cheers, everybody. Welcome back to another music review. And in this one, we've got an album from a band, for me personally, um, because I wasn't alive at the time and it was before my time, I didn't live through the magic of when they were massive, if that makes sense. So for me personally, it's quite a hard album to review where they're so revered by other people. The album I'm going to do is an album which is very much overlooked by a lot of people when you look at their back catalogue. Um, the first two albums, Led Zeppelin 1, Led Zeppelin 2, big fan favourites, aren't they? Zeppelin 4, and Physical Graffiti before they went on to Presence or whatever. I don't think, honestly, I don't think Led Zeppelin 4 would have sounded like it did without this album. This album was very important in their career. This album made them branch out in a way, acoustically. And the music is a little bit, I would have said at the time, for their fans at the time, a little bit hard to digest because they went down a different avenue. So we're talking about Led Zeppelin, of course, and the album I'm going to review is Led Zeppelin 3. Very much an overlooked album. Now, when I used to first go out, buy vinyl and stuff, lots of people used to tell me, you don't want to bother with Led Zeppelin 3, it's crap. Go for Led Zeppelin 1 or Led Zeppelin 2 or, 4. And I thought to myself, at the time, I kind of like followed suit with the rest of them. I thought, well, I won't bother with 3 then. But over time, I haven't got all the Led Zeppelin albums for stars. Over time, I thought to myself, you know what? Let's buy a copy, and listen to it. And I bought it, took it home like you usually do, and I really, really liked it because it was different. It was a lot different from the first two albums. It was more folky, more acoustic driven, if you know what I mean. And I suppose if people were used to a whole lot of love and good times, bad times, and that, maybe it was a little bit of a shock to them. But looking back now, looking at the songs on this album, I can, I've just listened to it. I can see now that they needed to, they needed to. This album was kind of like pivotal for them to branch out, and I don't think there would have been a Stairway to Heaven without exploring acoustic and folk songs, on this album. So for me, this was a very important release. And I think it was an important release for them. Not as much for their fan base, maybe at the time, I can imagine. So I'll kind of like talk through the album. It was released in 1970. It starts off with the Immigrant Song, which we most probably all heard at some point. And for me, the Immigrant Song is kind of like a leftover piece from Led Zeppelin 2. It's got that identity with Led Zeppelin 2, that strong John Bonham drum beat in it. And, it wouldn't feel out of place on that album. So, correct me if I'm wrong, it could have been from the Led Zeppelin 2 sessions. I haven't got a clue. And it's a solid track to start the album off. Then we go a bit acoustically with Friends, which has got like a acoustic Eastern flavour, Middle Eastern flavour to it, with a soaring orchestral feel to the song, which is a rather nice song as well. Then we go to Celebration Day. Now, Celebration Day, for me, I'm not really a fan of Celebration Day, to be honest. There's a lot of slide guitar in it, a lot of quick playing from Jimmy Page. And it's the type of Led Zeppelin which again, I don't familiarise myself with, because again, it was before my time, and even though I was into me rock music in my teen years, Led Zeppelin felt like a very, very long time ago back then in the 80s. It just did. I just thought, I don't identify myself with Led Zeppelin, and their music was quite a, quite a hard style for me to stomach at the time. You know, I lived in a world of MTV friendly hair metal. And all these bands, of course, were influenced by Led Zeppelin, but I didn't realise how important the band was in a degree. It's kind of like a generational thing for me. My science teacher, he was into Led Zeppelin, and when you're young and when you're in your teenage years, you don't want to follow what certainly don't want to follow what your elders are into. You know what I mean? Rock and roll for me has always been about rebellion. It's all about going into your bedroom, playing it loud, and your parents to really kind of have a go at you for playing it too loud. Turn that racket down, that type of thing. So when you see, a person double your age, sorry, Mr. Smith, if you were double my age, talk about Led Zeppelin as, the biggest hard rock band in the world, you tend not to take any notice, to be honest, if you know what I mean. So we go on to the fourth track. Since I've Been Loving You, for me, it's the Led Zeppelin which I fell in love with, and that is the blues-inspired Zeppelin from the first album, and also at snippets from the second album. But for me, the first album was very bluesy, and I'm a big fan of blues music anyway. And for me, Led Zeppelin were their best when they were playing blues music. And some people might think, the song Since I've Been Loving You is a little bit drawn out. It's over 7 minutes long. And, with blues music, you can play, a song which is supposed to be about 4 minutes. You can make that song into a 15-minute, 20-minute drawn out jam session. So I can understand why people might think, oh, it's, a little bit boring, but I do like the blues influence of Zeppelin. Always have done. Then we go to Out on the Tiles, which, again, is, for me, it's a little bit, it's like a Zeppelin template for me. Out on the Tiles, it's like when I first listened to Zeppelin 1, Good Times, Bad Times, there was essence of that in the song. It's kind of like a vocal guitar noodling, I call it vocal guitar noodling. It's that type of thing going on. It doesn't do anything for me personally on a personal level. I can see, fans of the band loving it. For me, it doesn't resonate at all. Then we come to my favourite song on the album, which is Gallows Pole. I've always loved it, and the first time I listened to this album, that song really stuck out. I just thought it was a cracking song. Great acoustic-driven song, folky acoustic type of theme to it. I've been taken to a gallows pole, It's not a ballad, is it? It's not a ballad with a song title of that. It's just a really good melodic song, and I fell in love with it first time. There's always a song when I've listened to an album where I fall in love with straight away, and everything else is more or less second best for me, if you know what I mean. So the next one is Tangerine, which, again, it carries on with the folky theme. It's nice melodies, acoustic, folky. It's a lovely. There's a nice guitar solo, and it's a bit of I call them a sleeper of a guitar solo because it creeps up on you from Jimmy Page, and it's a good song. It's one of the better songs on the album. Then we go to song number 8. That's the Way. It's light-hearted, it's folk, it's country, again acoustic. I can see why this album didn't fit right with the fans at the beginning, but for me, a true sign of greatness from a band is when they do something different and they challenge themselves and their fan base and the listener. So for me, yeah, it's light-hearted. It could be throwaway. It's okay. Then we go to number 9. I've got to try and pronounce this. Brunel Stomp. Brunel Stomp. You're going to get murdered by Zeppelin fans for saying that. Brunel Stomp. It's a stomp, basically. It's boom, boom, boom. It's a stomp, and it's it's a stomp. It's something. Who's reading it by? It's so I keep looking down, so I'm not familiar with the track listing. Brunel. It's like a barn dance back in the day, or a Kaylee. It's got like people dancing and putting their arms in each other and dancing around. It's quite cool actually in a way. Then the album finishes off with Hats Off to Roy Harper, which for me, in my teen years, it reminds me when I used to go picking magic mushrooms and making tea and listening to Zeppelin and listening to this particular song. That the vocal is slightly misplaced in this song. It sounds different to any of the other songs on the album. People could say it's a bit of a weak one, but it certainly makes this release interesting, and I think that's what I see it as. I see this album as an interesting release, and just more than a curiosity for people who haven't heard it. And of course, I think it's a pivotal release for the band because, like I said at the beginning of this video, without this release of a record, I don't think Zeppelin 4 would have turned out like it did. So overall, boys and girls, what do I think of Led Zeppelin 3? I've always had a soft spot for it. A lot of their fans won't have, but it's acoustic-y, folky, it's something different, and it challenges the listener in some places. My personal opinion of Zeppelin, I'll say for another video, really. But overall, if you haven't heard it, I think you should go out and give it a go if you like a bit of Zeppelin. Definitely. And of course, this album came out on vinyl. It had I haven't got the remastered version. It had this thing what used to spin round, and he had little holes. I think he had little holes in the cover, and it kind of like showed different pictures and that. And that's why you got this round thing here and round thing there, as you see. So yeah, it was different at the time, pioneering when it comes to packaging, most probably. So overall, boys and girls, thank you very much for watching this music review. Made a hash of it. I'm going to get murdered by Zeppelin fans, I'm sure I will. And I shall see all of you again on another one. Cheers.